How you guys doing? So yesterday I did the video for the bed liner, and today I'm going to do this video on installing a gooseneck hitch, one that I ordered off of Amazon. I also have to install the bed plug. I'll do that on a separate video, but I just kind of want to walk you guys through. It's not that difficult to do. Some of the tips and tricks that I use that help me make this a little bit easier process. So as you can see here, the nice thing about this kit is they label all of the individual parts. This is the center plate, it doesn't have a number on it, but all the other parts that go on the sides are numbered, which makes, when you read the instructions, which you get online after you scan the QR code, they give you a website with the instructions. Makes it very easy. Following the instructions, I already lowered the spare tire down just to make that easier. I drilled the hole in the bed with a 3.5-inch hole saw, which was pretty easy. Ford actually puts a dimple dead center in that hole, so you don't even have to measure. I drilled a pilot hole and then used a 3.5-inch hole saw to saw that out. And I've already installed this first one here. What I did, and I'll show you on the other one, I put it's number 1, as you can see right there, and if you look at the photo it shows you which one goes on which side. And I just ran the bolts through and then ran them through the holes that are already drilled into the frame on the Ford. So as you can see on this one, what I did is just put the bolts through. I'm going to line it up with the holes, which I already did. I took it back out to show you guys, and then I'm going to go ahead and put that through the pre-drilled holes. Alright, so we're going to take this, and right there you can see the holes that are pre-drilled for this. I'm just going to set it in there. Alright, now as you can see, there it is with the that flange part facing out. Then we move on to the next step here. Alright, so for this next piece to fit, there's 3 of these number 1s. 2 go on the outer side, 1 goes on the inside driver's side, and then the number 2 goes on the other side. It's a little bit different. But as you can see up under here, I moved the spare tire down. I'm probably going to drop this down and out of the way just by removing these 2 screws and lower the exhaust. And then on this side, we have some wiring right here. I'm just going to remove this and set the wiring out of the way. I'm probably going to lower this screw right here. It's hard to see there, so that I can move this out of the way to set the bracket in place and then put this back. Alright, so you can see here I took those bolts out. That allows me to move this out of the way so I can get that bracket that's going to sit right here on the inside of this frame. And then this will all bolt back up. There's one of the back bolt right there. Alright, so one issue that I had was the brake bracket that goes under there sits right here. And you can move this up and down, but when you see they're elongated, but when you put weight down on it, it's going to press down on that brake bracket. So I just cut a little bit of this metal up, maybe about 1/2 inch all the way across, just to give a little bit of clearance room for that brake bracket. I don't know if for 2020 Ford moved the brake bracket up. The instructions don't really show you. They just say put it back when you're done, but it won't fit with this the way it was before. So I just clearanced it about 1/2 inch using a cutoff wheel, and now it'll fit just fine. The other side, there's no clearance issues, just on the driver's side where that brake bracket's bolted to the frame. I want to make sure I can bolt it back right where it goes. Alright, just to show what I was talking about with clearance in that piece, this is still kind of in the way, but you can see that bracket right there just needed room to bolt back up. And I want to drill and tap a new hole down here. That would be tremendously difficult in this way it sits. On this side, give me a second here. On this side, the only thing that's in the way, see that hole right there? That's for the exhaust temp sensor, I assume, right here. So it's got another bracket right there, So that should be good enough. I just took that bracket out to get that number 2. Sorry for being sideways there, but get that number 2 bracket in there. Now we move on to the center sections. I did not have to take the exhaust down to get that in, which was nice. Just a little tip for you guys. These, per the instructions, I gotta get under there, hold this up, stick this bolt through a hole, start threading it through here. So what you want to do is, before you ever get up under there, go ahead and get the bolts. As you can see, this one's already getting tight. And run through the threads just to get all the paint out of the threads, everything like that. Just keeps you from cross threading and having issues when you're up under there. So I'm going to go ahead and run all the bolt holes before I put it in there, just to get the paint crud out of them. Alright, just we're in the process of getting these other brackets up. I'll show you where we are here. So I just installed this bracket, which is number 6 for the back here, and then number 4, which is for the front. So it goes 4, 6, and then the other side it'll be 3 and 5. You just kind of feed them up in here. They feed up over the rail, and there's a bolt on each side that holds them in. And a little tip for these bolts: don't tighten anything until you get everything in place, because as an example, I had these bolts up here tight on both sides, and I couldn't get the bolts fed through for this because there just wasn't enough wiggle room. So once I loosened it up a little bit, everything fed through. So I've got 2 more brackets on this side, and then the center section, which that's going to be a whole nother issue because it's heavy as hell. But I have an idea for how to hold that up, and if it works, I'll show you what I did. If you have an Anderson hitch, I'm going to use an Anderson hitch to hold the center section up while I run the bolts in place. So we're still in the process. Alright, so now we have all 4 brackets in place, just loose and up in there. Bolts just pretty much finger tight, a few turns in them. Honestly, number 3 back there was the hardest one to get in, just because of the fuel tank, but it wasn't that hard. If you take your time, you feed it up through, and there's actually room up under here. I could sit up under here, if you get my hands up in there, get that bolt started, hold that end up while I get the bolt started. It wasn't that bad. We are going to see what it's like when I have to start tightening all the bolts. Once I get the center section in place, we're going to see how difficult it's going to be. Still have some carriage bolts to put up in here to tie all these together. So we're going to see what it's like then, and how it finishes out. I'm not going to lie, this isn't a 1 hour, 1 in and out done project. If you have a lift, maybe you could do that, doing it on the floor and taking your time like I am. So be prepared to spend some time doing this, and you know, if you go slow and take your time, everything will be right the first time. Alright everyone, after hours of reaching in and beating on this thing, I finally got it in. And I have to say, I did have to lower the exhaust, but all in all, it came out pretty good. There's the rating for the, hang on just a second, the rating info for the ball. And as you can see, I got everything in, got everything tightened down. I don't have a torque wrench, it goes up 200 foot-pounds, so I used a really long wrench to tighten them all down as tight as I could with those conical washers that will lock it in. You can see them kind of up there, those conical washers right there. Keep pressure, just like a lock washer, keep pressure out and keep them from turning. You can see it's a very tight fit up underneath there, but all the bolts are in. It took me, honestly, it took me probably 5-6 hours working on this, taking my time, trying to make sure everything fit right, and you know, making a couple of small mistakes, having to take a bolt out and move something around so I could feed another bolt in one of the holes under there. And that's one of the big takeaways, is make sure you leave everything somewhat loose so you can move stuff around. The bolts out in the wheel wells, you can A couple of them you can leave out just so you can maneuver those things around, because getting those carriage bolts down is really not the easiest thing to do in the world. So this is the kit that I used, the Drawtight kit, part number 4494 for a Superduty. Like I said, I did have to make a very small notch on one of the rails. I don't know if Ford moved their mounting point for something underneath, but other than that, it fit tight, but it fit very well. So if you're looking to do this, then it's definitely doable in the driveway. It's helpful if you have 2 or 3 people with you, but it can be done by yourself. Just allot yourself plenty of time and make sure that you have, you know, a good solid set of tools. You're gonna need a hole saw, 3.5 inch hole saw. You're gonna need a 11/16 saw for the hooks for the safety chain. So just make sure when they send this to you, it has all that stuff that you're going to need beforehand in the instructions. So good luck to you, and as soon as I go to install the 7-pin in the bed, which will be another day, not today because I'm smoked, then I'll put that out there as well. Thanks.